Morning, everybody.
Well,
Oh, you know what? Can you? That would probably help. All right, there we go. That's better. A little bit better. That over. Morning, Ethan and Alex, Kellen, Peanut Butter Toast, Natalie. It's nice to see your faces this morning. Just waiting for a few more people here. So while we're waiting for these next 30 seconds, please log into those Pear Deck slides. You'll definitely want those today. While we're waiting, I would love to know what you folks think about Pear Deck in general. Is it working for you? Is it not working for you? Should I try something? And I asked that because I found out this morning, in 18 short days, my free trial expires, and the school district is not going to pay for a new one. So if it's worth it, then I want to invest in it. But if it's not, I want to try something different. So even if you just put it in the chat real quick, yep, Pear Deck works for me, or Pear Deck works in other classes, or here's how you can make Pear Deck work better, I would appreciate it. Alrighty, now I think we have everybody. So we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning. Thanks for being here. Plan for the day. We're going to switch gears, but hopefully make connections to what we've been looking at for the last couple of weeks. We'll start off with our check-in, and I'll tell you in a little bit how that's going to. One more person here. And our transition is going to be to specifically look at different aspects of, or let me take one step back. Some different characteristics that a species might possess that may have been favored by natural selection over the course of time. And our focus, at least for today, is going to be on animal behavior. So we've been looking at the process of speciation and how new species come to be. We've illustrated the process of speciation with evolutionary trees. We've spent some time thinking about how natural selection works at a very fundamental level. What we're going to begin to explore now is, okay, now that we know what a species is and how they come to be, what are they doing within a living system? And how has natural selection influenced what it is that they're doing over the course of time? Because eventually we're going to begin to look at how different species interact with each other within living systems, but that's not going to be for today. I want to show you some different examples of animal behavior, and then we'll take our break. And I'd like to give you at least 10 or 15 minutes to either work on the homework that you may not have finished for today, the Edpuzzle video on animal behavior, or maybe even begin working on the corrections for summative assessment number 2, or even on lab number 5. So that is the plan for the day. And of course, we'll wrap up with an exit slip. Okay. Questions for me or for the good of the group before we get started? Well then, our check-in for today is going to look familiar, I hope, but we're going to use it a little bit differently than we have in the past. In the past, we've used the mood meter to really answer the question, how are you doing today? And that part's still going to hold true. So what you're going to find is the blue dot at the bottom of the screen. You can use that blue dot to drag, you can drag the blue dot to the spot of the mood meter that best represents how you're feeling right now. So it could be a color, it could be a word. Notice on the Y and the X axis, you've got energy on the Y axis and pleasantness on the X axis. So you can drag your dot where you best see fit this morning. But I hope you also see the heart. For the heart, I want you to drag the heart to how you like to feel by the end of the day today. All right, so 2 prompts. Blue, how are you doing right now? Red heart, where would you like to be emotionally? How would you like to feel by the end of the day? Take a moment to drag your dot and drag your heart. All right. So hopefully you can see the responses on your end. Looks like most of the dots and hearts have stopped moving. What are you noticing about us right now?
There's one person that wants to be enraged.
Fair enough.
There's not a lot of movement that people want to happen, but it's from green to blue to green.
Sorry, I'm trying to monitor the chat too in case anyone puts anything up there. Not yet. Okay. Well, you're the second class to do this. Oh, some dots are moving again. You're the second class to do this. And something I've noticed, there seems to be a pretty clear dividing line between where you are and where you want to be. So here's my third question, my third prompt before we move into the lesson for today. What could you do for yourself or for someone else today to get yourself to where you want to be emotionally? And you don't have to write this down anywhere. You can, of course, but you don't have to. Just take a moment to reflect and set the intention. What can I do for myself? What can I do for somebody else today that would help me get closer to my emotional goal for the day? If anybody's willing to share, of course, you can pop it in the chat or take yourself off mute. Funny, Alex, one of the things my son and daughter do before bed is they, of course, go potty, and of course, they have to have their iPad time. And last night they found, maybe you folks know what this is, but this is all new to me. People are like recording videos of, I guess it's a hamster, going through these elaborate mazes. And different parts of the maze like have like a Minecraft section. And this last night it was a Pac-Man section. And my son like loves Pac-Man right now. So he had to show me, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. Oh, Pac-Man, eating the ghosts, eating the ghosts. And of course, it was the hamster that was eating the ghosts, but whatever. So I don't know. When I saw Minecraft, I was like, I remember that from last night. I've never played Minecraft. Should I be playing Minecraft?
Played Minecraft? Ugh, shame on you.
I'm old, man. I'm old. Have you ever played NHL 93?
100%. Yeah, I have. No, my dad owns a retro game little boy cube that has a bunch of retro games in it, so I used to play them a lot.
First of all, that's a Sega product. Thank you very much. If you're playing it on GameCube, you're doing it wrong.
No, it's shaped like a cube. I wasn't calling it. It's a game cube. I'm saying it's shaped like a cube because I don't know what it's called.
I'm teasing. I'm teasing. You can pretty much get an emulator for any of these systems now online anyway. So, all right. Well, thank you for taking the time to drag your dots this morning. And again, what I encourage you to do is if there's a place that you want to be today emotionally, if you want to feel differently, set the intention to do something about it. And then see if by the end of the day today, before you go to bed, take a moment. Did I do it? And if I didn't, could I do it tomorrow? All right, let's get off of this here and we'll hop into the lesson for the day. All right, so as I mentioned at the beginning of class, we're transitioning into the world of animal behavior with the focus on, okay, now that you know where species come from and you know how populations evolve over the course of time, heck, you even know how to mathematically demonstrate that a population has evolved over the course of time using your understanding of Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. If we were to focus first on a single species and what it is that they're doing, right? How might natural selection have influenced their behavior or behaviors over the course of time? What we're going to start out with is an example with which you may have some familiarity. It's an example that deals with honeybee behavior. So in a moment, I'm going to play a short video clip. It's only 30 seconds. And as you're watching, there are 4 questions on the side of the screen that I'd like you to consider. Okay. I will put you into a small breakout group, a small group, and my hope is that you'll have a short conversation around each of these questions. In fact, I'll even give you control of the slides if anyone in your group wants to watch the video clip again. All right. What questions do you have before we get started? All right. I will say this much before I hit play. The answer or answers to the questions on the left are not provided in the video. This is not about coming up with the correct answers. It's really about looking at something and thinking about what it is that you're seeing. Here we go. Oops, that's not what I want. Sorry about that. All right. So again, I'll give you control over that in case you want to watch it again. But I'm going to send you into those breakout rooms just for a few minutes to have a short conversation around those 4 questions on the left-hand side of the video clip. Here we go.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely some sort of communication going on there because I feel like they wouldn't be like following each other if
Right,
they're
they're like interacting.
yeah.
And what the purpose?
Maybe the purpose is to attract one another and possibly mate. I don't know.
Hmm. I have no idea. I'm like clicking through it.
Do you want a hint?
Sure.
So actually the next example of behavior that I'm going to share with you deals with reproduction, with mating. What you're seeing with the honeybees actually has nothing to do with mating. They are communicating another form of information to each other.
Okay.
So what do you
Well,
think that could be?
Other thing that like organisms need is like food. So maybe it has to do with like a food source. I don't really know how, but that would possibly make sense.
Wait until you find out how. It's pretty
Yeah.
basic.
What you think it is.
What do you mean?
Like, so you can't really harvest honey all year. There's like a certain time frame you have to do it, but you still have to like constantly upkeep a lot of the beehives. And how like beehives, supposed to be kind of round and stuff. So like the wax can build up like in the little grate things. So you can like it can get stuck and then you can't harvest the honey anymore.
Don't they also have like diseases?
I would think so.
Well, I thought the like there was like a whole disease where like the bees getting lost or like something like that. No, I swear to God.
Sorry. Like,
You're right.
You're
It's
right.
called colony collapse disorder. And the cause of it is still being investigated by scientists.
I
Yeah.
think it's probably climate change is what's causing it, I'm guessing.
No, it's like an actual disease.
It's
like-
an actual disease.
Bees are supposed to be like insanely confined in their own home. Like you can move them like thousands of miles away, and they can still like fly back to their home.
That's so weird. How's that?
Well, Ryan, wait until you see what they're actually communicating. It's not just weird, it's unbelievable.
Oh wow.
Trevor got kicked out. Well, welcome back. I'm really enjoying popping into some of the rooms and hearing your conversations. It feels like that's just different than it has been just a few weeks ago. So I really appreciate the effort that you're taking to talk to one another, albeit across your screens. any questions come out of your conversations, anything you're wondering about, I will provide some answers to these questions on the side of the screen. But anything you're wondering about right now? Curious about right now?
Do bees
Sorry, Ryan, go ahead. I think,
can bees hear?
yes, absolutely. Yeah. Insects don't have ears like we have ears. They really, if you've heard of the eardrum before, or the tympanic membrane within a mammalian ear, you can imagine that not all insects, but some insects have a similar eardrum, but it's right out on their body surface. But we also, as mammals, have the ability to respond to vibration. So as an example, like I could take a tuning fork, I could strike that tuning fork and I could place it up close to your skull. And the energy of that tuning fork as it vibrates would be transferred to the bones of your skull. And that would also allow for you to perceive sound. Insects do something similar to that. If they're in contact with a surface and something around their surface is vibrating, they can detect that vibrational energy as well. Other questions or wonderings? Oh, chat, sorry. Trying to do two things at once here. Yes, it does actually. Yeah, you can, there's two forms of deafness. There's deafness that directly involves, it's called sensorineural hearing loss, where there's an issue with your nervous system or with the structures that are connected to the nervous system. And then there's a form of hearing loss, which is directly connected to the anatomical structures. If you've heard of, the ossicles, the malleus incus and stapes, the bones of the middle ear, all of those sorts of things, you can have a transductional hearing loss, which has nothing to do with your nervous system, but literally prevents the transmission of vibrational energy into the inner ear. So yes, you can have two different forms of deafness, or both forms of deafness, depending on the extent of it. All right, well, I want to show you what those bees are really doing in another video clip. And again, maybe begin to apply the lens of natural selection. So as you watch this next video clip, why might this particular behavior and the information that's being communicated between the bees have been favored by natural selection over the course of time? And why might an inability, right, to communicate effectively between bees in this case have been disfavored by natural selection over the course of time? Again, we're focusing on animal behavior in the context of a single species, asking the question, why do these animals do what they do in the first place? So I'll get the next clip up. I'll take it out of student mode here. Here we go.
Sometimes they can fly more than 6 kilometers to get enough nectar and pollen back because they need a plentiful and vast supply. It's a huge problem, and to solve that problem requires massive organization.
But the bees have an almost incredible solution. Adam has set up an observation hive. It's completely dark inside, and so infrared cameras reveal what's going on.
There's all sorts of behaviors going on. Initially, it looks very chaotic. It looks like bees are everywhere. But you can see some vibrations going on and some movements that are actually part of a very sophisticated communication system.
The bees perform a striking behavior that's key to solving the problem of gathering enough food. It's called the waggle dance.
The waggle dance is a very sophisticated way of directing foragers towards nectar in the environment. So it's sat-nav for bees. It's telling them where to go.
The waggle dance isn't just for show. This bee has found a good source of food, and she's performing a set of very precise movements to tell the others exactly where to find it.
And it tells them the direction and the distance of the nectar. The best way to understand how the waggle dance actually works is to get up high, because then you can get a view of the landscape in which the bees are operating.
This church tower gives Adam a bee's eye view of the landscape. From up here, it's easy to see where the sun lies over the landscape and where it would be if it were on the horizon.
So you imagine the sun drops down to the horizon. That's the line the bees have to follow, and that's what the waggle dance is doing. It's giving them direction.
One of the dancing bees in the hive was waggling at an angle of 5 degrees. So, if this tower were a massive beehive, the waggle dance would be telling us that the nectar is 5 degrees from the relative position of the sun, somewhere in that direction.
But they can also advertise distance, because the duration of that waggle run, that central component, tells the bees how far away the resource is. The closer it is, the shorter the waggle run.
So, new questions, new wonderings. Are you just in a little bit of awe? Stupid bugs. What do you know?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Have they measured, like the actual length of the dance to the number of miles away?
Absolutely.
Like a second equals something miles?
It actually,
kilometers?
it's not so much time, although that has been a variable that's been considered. There's a direct correlation between the length, it's called the free run of the waggle dance. So you see that a little bit. I can show you another picture though on this slide. The dance itself actually has 2 components. And let me just say up front that no one expects you to memorize this, right? This is not what this is about. This is an example of an animal behavior, right? It's a form of communication that the bees are using to not only to communicate the presence of food, but to signal to other bees within the hive, here's where to go find it. And there's 2 pieces to the dance. You can see it a little bit in the video. There's the round dance, so it kind of looks like an infinity symbol, but it's not really a true infinity symbol, because what ends up happening is that as the bee comes around, that's telling the other bees, hey, I've got information to share. Look at me, pay attention to me. And then as they come down or come up, depending on where they are in the dance and really where the food is located relative to the hive, the length of that run is directly correlated with how far away the food source is from the hive. So it's been estimated that a distance of about half of about 5 centimeters, no, wait, what's the distance? Half a kilometer is equivalent to a run of, I think it's 5 centimeters. I might need to go back and look that up again. I might have my units mixed up. But there is a direct correlation between the length of the run and how far away a typical bee would have to fly away from the hive to find the food source. What else are you wondering about or curious about?
How do bees understand the direction of where to go to? Like, I know it's like the certain dance, but the bee is right beside the other bee. So how would they know the pattern?
It's a great question. And, you know, this work actually earned the scientist who discovered the waggle dance the Nobel Prize in the mid-20th century, back in the 1950s. So what we know, what we discovered and what we really understand quite well now is that the actual act of following the lead bee is enough to communicate all of this information to any of the followers, right? So as they follow that lead bee for a certain distance, to go back to Trevor's question, that's communicating how far you have to fly. But because every individual bee has a shared reference point, right? The point at which the sun is in the sky relative to the hive. Hopefully you can see that on the slide as well. So if A is the hive, if a bee knows where the sun is in the sky, they're using that reference point, and then you saw it in the video, right? The angle at which they're following the lead bee to understand, once I leave that hive and I find the sun, I fly this way and this far, and eventually I'm going to get to where I need to be. How has natural selection influenced this behavior? If you were a really bad communicator, would you have been favored? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Yes, no. No way. What if you were a really bad listener? Would you have been selected for? No way. So the act of either participating, right, engaging in the behavior, or following the leader, if you will, right, would both be behaviors, right, or aspect of the behavior that you would expect natural selection to favor over the course of time. But I think Ryan's point about how the bees are actually communicating the information to each other, what we know is that the antenna of the following bees, the follower bees, often has to be in direct contact with the lead bee. What if you were a bee that was born, hatched, with non-functional or less than functional antennae? Would you be receptive to this information? No. So any mutation that appeared in the population that created a defect in antenna structure or antenna receptivity wouldn't have been favored. You could even begin to think about this in terms of different species of bee, right? Maybe the way in which the bees are communicating within different species is slightly different, right? So that if you had a bee that from one hive, from one species that ended up in another hive, you could begin to think about how the visitor bee would be unable to communicate effectively because it's literally not able to respond to the information that's being communicated. So I just wanted to share this with you because, it's a nice transition in thinking about how natural selection has influenced a particular aspect of a species, in this case, the behavior of the species. And when we come back from our break and I kind of open up the class to give you some time to do what you need to do, you might use that time, if you haven't already, to watch the Edpuzzle video on animal behavior. So I'm not going to lecture on this. The video is taking the place of the lecture. But what I hope that you'll see as you watch the video is that animal behavior, or ethology, if you will, it's the aspect of biological science where biologists study animal behavior, is really broken up into two parts. Right? There's the proximate cause of the behavior and the ultimate cause of the behavior. The proximate cause is the how of the behavior. How are the animals or the plants or the fungi or even the bacteria doing what they're doing? And biologists can spend their entire careers, right, figuring out how a particular behavior works, how a signal is communicated, how a signal is received, and then once that signal is received, what happens within the organism. And I'm not exaggerating. That could be 2 decades of work. If you're going into science with the expectation of getting a rapid return or instant gratification, I implore you, rethink your options. These things take a lot of time. Right? But the other piece of ethology of animal behavior that's important to consider is the ultimate cause, and that's the why. Why are the animals, the plants, the fungi, why are they doing this? And that's going to come back to natural selection. Chances are they're doing it because it favors their survival, gathering food, or it favors their ability to reproduce. So after our break, I want to show you a quick video clip that's going to highlight a different organism, albeit an insect, that is using a particular behavior not to locate food or to communicate the location of food, but instead to communicate with a potential mate. I'm horny. Let's have sex. I know. Trevor, go ahead.
To add on to this, I recently saw a video of jumping spiders. How they move.
I didn't hear the last part. I'm sorry.
on how jumping spiders mate.
How do they mate?
I saw a video on that.
Oh, yes. And if
It's
this
very interesting.
at all, yeah, start Googling animal behavior, especially in insects, because insects make up the most diverse species on planet Earth. You will find crazy behaviors, some of which we're going to highlight later on next week when we look at not just how a single species is behaving, but how multiple species interact within a living system. They do some really, really remarkable things. All right, so let's take our break. It's 9:34. We'll come back at 9:37. I'll show you that other example of animal behavior in action. We could start making our way back together. Okay, so again, I want to give you some time here at the end of class to do what you need to do, whether that's watching the animal behavior ed puzzle video or working on the Hardy-Weinberg lab or even working on corrections to summative assessment number 2. But before I set you free to do that, I just wanted to share one more additional example of animal behavior. And it's going to be the, the courtship or mating ritual between fruit flies. And I bet you've all seen fruit flies before, especially in the summer months. They're buzzing around our overripe bananas, oranges, and apples. They're actually an organism that we use a lot here at school. My hope is that we'll still be able to use them when we come back to school someday. But in this short video clip, what you're going to see is actually a really complex set of behaviors that lead to a successful mating event, right? And again, as you look at these behaviors in this short video clip, think about how natural selection may have influenced these behaviors over the course of time. All right. Make sure you can hear and see it. Yep. All right, here we go.
We got it together, didn't we? We've definitely got our thing together, don't we, baby? Isn't that nice? I mean, really, when you really sit and think about it, isn't it really, really nice? I can easily feel myself slipping more and more away into that super world of my own. Nobody but you and me. We've got it together, baby. My first, my last, my everything.
Barry White fans, come on. Anybody? It's supposed to be, you know, a little silly, right? But everything that you just saw there, it has to happen in that order. If it doesn't, and it's a little hard to see, but the female is the larger of the two flies in the video. The male is the one who's trying to entice the female into mating. So, you know, he's tapping, he's chasing, he's singing, he's doing all of these things until eventually, I guess he convinces her, you know, a little sexist, to actually go ahead and mate. So just like before, right, you can imagine all of the different, I mean, you could think of the how, right? Heck, maybe it's kind of gross this early in the morning, but you know, the parts that have to fit together anatomically in order for those two flies to mate successfully, all of that has been influenced by natural selection. But each of those individual behaviors has also been influenced by natural selection. So if you're a really bad chaser or a bad tapper or a bad singer, you're not going to make it because you're not going to be able to reproduce. So before I open up and give you the rest of the class to do some work on your own independently, any questions, comments coming up? Anything you're wondering about? Is this interesting?
I thought the bee thing was really cool.
Go ahead, Tanner.
I thought the bee thing was really cool.
Yeah. So do I. Stupid bees. Whoa, you're communicating a lot of information there. Maybe you're not so stupid. Yeah. And just for the sake of eliminating the sexism that may have been part of the second video clip, all those communicating bees, they're all females. There are very few males in a typical honey beehive. So ladies do their thing.
I have a question about the lab.
Is that something for the good of the group or something that you think you and I can talk about?
How about just you and me?
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's do this. Let me give you folks control of the slides. So if you haven't watched the Edpuzzle video on animal behavior yet, you can get to it in Classroom, but I also put a slide up in this slide deck that you can use to get to the Edpuzzle video. But you can also use this time to do, it sounds like what Alex has a question about, loud number 5, or even work on corrections to summative number 2. I like to bring everybody back in just about 10 minutes to do that exit slip, but that should certainly give you enough time to watch the animal behavior video. Okay. All right, Alex, I'm gonna get people set up into a single breakout room that you and I can join. Give me a second here.
Are we just doing work time right now?
Yeah, so for the next 10 minutes, really, I envision 3 options. The animal behavior Edpuzzle video, if you haven't watched that yet, summative corrections number 2, or continuing your work on lab number 5, which is due tomorrow. or ask
When
you
are the
questions as
summative
Alex says.
corrections due?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, when are the summative corrections due?
I think I put everything up live last night, so I always give you folks a week to make a correction. So that should be next Monday.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, let me get this room set up here. There it is. And to recreate.
Right. So I was doing the lab last night, and I did the normal conditions without changing anything, and I did it like multiple times. Like I like reset it, and like it gave me different, like drastically different results each time.
Okay.
Is that? And I was like, I don't know.
So two things to consider, right? As a scientist, right? As a budding scientist, when you use words like drastically, is that code or is that synonymous for statistically significantly different?
Yeah, it was like, now I wish I saved it. Of course I didn't. That was just stupid. But it was like, so my original results, I got that like the recessive gene showed up more. It was like 0.2, or yeah, it was like 0.5 something. And then on the second time, I got that the dominant allele, I think I said recessive gene, the dominant allele showed up like 0.7, was dominant 0.7% of the time. So I didn't know if like changing one variable, like I don't know if that like would be the cause for how much the data changed.
Well, so you have just stumbled upon something that is built into that simulation that actually connects to our learning from last week. What is happening in that population of koi-fish is only about 200.
Oh, was it
Bingo. Bingo. So the allele frequencies are drifting because of random changes in the gene pool, right? So that's why you're seeing an increase in one run and a decrease in the other run, which is why I recommended just doing it the one time and then change your variable and run it one more time and just look for a difference. Because people have asked really good questions this week by email. I'm like, well, do I have to do any statistical analysis? And my answer is not this time. Because you may end up getting some funky results because of the way that drift is built into the simulation.
Okay, got it. All right. And I also have one more question. So I started to revise lab 1 and then I just never finished and forgot about it. Is there like a date for how, like when we could, is it just first quarter? Or
Well,
is,
you know,
I'm fine with it being too late. Like it's fine. I didn't like fail or anything.
No. I'm what I'm running into from my end is that people are making revisions but not telling me, which is why I sent that text out today. So go ahead and do it, right? Okay. Here's what I don't want to have happen, right? I don't want it to be December 23rd and all of a sudden I get an email with, but I did all of these things. It's like, no, that's too late. But right now, do what you got to do and then let me know and I'll go back and take a look.
And also I was talking with Sasha Ware a week ago and she says hi.
Yeah, I hope she's doing well. It was nice to see her. I think GNN made a video clip of first-year college students in a pandemic, and I saw her in that video.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's on YouTube. You can still watch it. But yeah, it was good to see her face. It's been a while.
All right, I'll go back in the room. Okay.
All right, I want to honor the time that we have left, only a couple minutes. So I'm going to take you out of student mode. And before you sign off, if you could just quickly respond to the prompt on the screen. There were 2 learning objectives for today. They're up on the screen. What have you experienced today that confirms, supports, reinforces an understanding of one or both of those objectives? As soon as you make your contribution, you are welcome to sign off. And my goodness, I'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.